Aunt Toña was a woman of considerable age. She is remembered as very kind to everyone. She had enough money to own a large, beautiful house. Despite all that, Toña was very lonely. She had never married nor had children, and she lived completely alone. Her relatives, supposedly, never came to visit. To end her solitude, she decided to open her home to the street children, giving them shelter, food, and refuge, because they say she truly was a very good person. Even with all of Toña's kindness, she was not spared the cruelty of some of the children she sheltered. It is said they began to play tricks on her, constantly stealing her belongings and disobeying her on many occasions. And of course, being an elderly woman with the burdens loneliness brings when it comes to tolerating or processing certain things, all that tested her patience until, in an uncontrollable outburst driven by many internal factors, she ended the lives of the children in that house one by one. She did not leave the bodies lying around. She carried them little by little to a nearby river and threw them into the water, letting the current take care of their fate. Soon, Mrs. Toña began to hear the children's laughter and voices throughout the house. If she had already been weighed down by the most horrible guilt, imagine how she must have felt then. As those feelings of guilt accumulated, she could do nothing but take her own life. No one knows exactly how she ended her existence, but it is said it was in her bedroom, and people claim that if you enter that house you can still find her body there. Visitors who sometimes walk along the rivers in those forests have reported hearing something heavy being thrown into the water at times, without seeing the source of the sound. Even forest walkers claim to hear cries, howls, screams, or voices, because remember, it was not only the children who lost their lives there but also people who suffered accidents in that place. But this legend has another side, quite contrary to what has just been told. When a mysterious house is said to be visible from afar but impossible to approach, the matter does not remain unexamined. Aerial searches were carried out to confirm whether some property was truly being ignored by people and by the authorities, but these searches had no success. Thinking the house might be hidden under the tall trees, ground searches were also undertaken, and indeed the two bridges the stories speak of were found. But they do not lead anywhere in particular, only more and more forest. The search did not stop there, and the forest continued to be explored. Finally, that house, beautifully entwined among the trees, was found. Contrary to the way legends usually neatly tie things up, this time there is a twist. The house they found is not exactly like the one the legend describes. It is the same property referenced, but not in the conditions recounted in the tales. To begin with, it is not necessary to trek through the entire forest to reach it. You can arrive by taking a different route from the Cumbres de Acatzingo residential area. And let it be clear, this is not an invitation to visit the place, but rather the opposite. The house is kept under constant surveillance at all hours. Not only that, but it is currently inhabited, by whom, nobody knows. They will have their reasons, and they have asked the guards in the area not to mention it, though the guards do confirm it is occupied. Perhaps during the 20 years the house spent as a shell undergoing remodeling, it projected a completely different image to those passing by. A house standing in the thick of the woods with an appearance fit for a horror film was only a matter of time before stories began to circulate about that place. Tracing the origins of this legend, we find an important photograph that, if not the first, was certainly one of the earliest images used to represent the story. Norberto Villarreal was the photographer who captured the image that long stood as the face of the legend, dated January 30, 2007. But that was not the origin of the tale. The first recorded mention appears 3 years earlier. On April 8, 2004, on an internet forum called Cruella, people shared paranormal experiences. There, Ana Laura from Mexico published an account of a group of young people who entered an abandoned house in Chapultepec. In that version, no exact location was given and no photographs were attached. The story went by the name, The House of Aunt Toña. In later versions on different websites, The same experience was recounted but illustrated with Norberto Villarreal's photograph. That was when people began to connect the routes, the bridges, the forest, and the idea that by walking and walking you would inevitably reach that house. If the path were true and you reached the house, the legend would start to be taken as reality. As with many tales, there are multiple versions. Some say Aunt Toña lived in a very small cottage deep in the woods. Others claim she did not take in the children at all. Instead, a group of young people, upon learning of her wealth, brought the children there and, fearing exposure, ended their lives. There are many other variations. What do you think of this legend? What other version do you know? The last word is yours.